What's going on, guys? Hopefully you're having a good weekend. I want to give you guys a quick Bitcoin update. Right now Bitcoin's hovering in the $66,000 range. It's been trying to hold up pretty good over this weekend, but in this video I'm going to look over the chart, give you guys a couple points to look out for, and we're also going to talk about a huge date in Bitcoin's history, the first commercial transaction recorded for the purchase of some pizzas. In modern day Bitcoin money, that is $650 million, and while the person that traded this Bitcoin for pizza is likely kicking themselves now, at the same time, if that transaction never happened, maybe Bitcoin would be in a different place now. So that person made the ultimate sacrifice, and I have to say, thanks for that. But let's get started on this video, guys. If you get something useful out of this, you know what to do. And first off, let's look at Bitcoin's chart. Bitcoin over this weekend has been slowly pulling back a bit after the nice run we had, from down in the 61,000 range all the way up towards 67,000. We're now cooling down just a little bit. We did go on to break our 50 MA last week, and we did hold it up as support and went all the way to 67,000 before starting to cool off here. What I'm looking for next week, I do think this 67,000 will be an important area. If we can break it, we do have potential to head to the top line of this new trend we've created. After we broke this downtrend we were in for quite a while, after we hit new all-time highs, not too long before that, we did break out of this descending channel, and it seems like we're starting a new uptrend, so keep an eye on this general direction. I do think for the most part Bitcoin is going to fill this out, continue following this pattern. Maybe we pull back down to the 50 MA, and by the end of May, we're down to $65,000 or so. That is if we come down to test the 50 MA. If we come back up starting Monday, start heading back over 67,000, I do think we have a chance by the end of May to see a $70,000 Bitcoin, and that'll be right at the resistance on this ascending channel here. But so far it does look like Bitcoin is going to be playing out this pattern for a little while longer. If by the end of May we're either over 70,000 or under 65,000, this would likely invalidate this pattern, and we'd have to look for a new trend in direction, Bitcoin's next pattern after this one. But so far I do expect we're either going to see a $65,000 Bitcoin or a $70,000 Bitcoin by the end of this month. I wouldn't be surprised to see us backtest our 50 MA, just for the market to make sure that it can hold it up as support. Previously it has been a pretty strong resistance until we finally broke out of it. One thing I'm noticing with Bitcoin right now that might cause us to continue to pull back through the rest of the day is we are seeing a bit of an RSI divergence, a bearish one. We're seeing higher highs on the chart. However, the RSI is posting lower highs. You can see the divergence here. This is heading downwards on the RSI, and price is going upwards. If market notices this RSI divergence, if it plays out, I do think we're going to head by the end of today down to $66,000. It's not surprising over weekends to see a little bit of a pullback. Over previous weekends, Bitcoin has been slow moving. A lot of the runs come during the week when spot ETFs are trading on the market. We're also seeing a big divergence on the 1 hour. You'll see we're continuing to set higher highs and also higher lows. However, the RSI is hitting lower highs and lower lows. So it's kind of interesting, we have a bearish divergence here, higher highs, lower highs on the RSI, but then we have a bullish divergence, higher lows on the chart, lower lows on the RSI. We're looking at this bearish RSI divergence here, but we're also getting this bullish RSI divergence here as well. Now, being that we have a bullish and a bearish divergence on the 1 hour, I would say the 4 hours more the deciding factor. It's a longer time frame. I don't see any divergences on the daily or on other time frames right now, at least. But, the 4 hour, we are seeing that bearish divergence. We're seeing higher highs on the chart. We're seeing lower highs on the RSI. Maybe this does cause us to pull back a little bit, test some previous lows. The positive for now is we are over both a 50 and 200 MA. They're in the correct order. However, the 50 MA is still kind of curling down. It's basically right now what the indicator is doing. It's basically getting through this, pullback. You see how the chart was starting to top out here and pull back. Well, the 50 MA was starting to top out here and pull back. So if you look at it, there is a delay. Like I said, this is a lagging indicator. So keep that in mind. I do expect the 50 MA to start curling up as long as we don't dramatically fall here. I would expect to start seeing the 50 curl up, the 200 still pointing up, and our bullish momentum continues. But for now, keep an eye on those RSI divergences. I do think we're going to see a pretty quick change in price with Bitcoin soon. Now, I also want to talk about this big day for Bitcoin. 14 years ago, someone bought 10,000 Bitcoin worth of pizza. Now, if you don't know where Bitcoin was 14 years ago, you might think, wow, this guy must have got a lot of pizza for that 10,000 Bitcoin. He got 2 pizzas for those 10,000 Bitcoin. And now this is a little misleading because it says the famous Bitcoin for pizza offer that took 4 days to complete. And it even says here, however, most people are not aware that it took him 4 days to finalize this transaction, which is now worth $670 million, those 10,000 Bitcoin. It didn't take 4 days to have that transaction go through. The transaction started on the 22nd of May, 4 days after the proposal. It basically took them 4 days to find someone that was willing to do this. It wasn't a 4-day transaction. But basically, it went like this. Our homie Laszlo, the programmer, proposed an offer, 10,000 Bitcoin for some pizza. This offer was the first documented commercial transaction for Bitcoin. And he said, and I quote, "I'll pay 10,000 Bitcoin for a couple of pizzas. Like maybe 2 large ones so I can have some left over for the next day. You can make the pizza yourself, bring it to my house, or order it for me from a delivery place." But basically the aim is to get food delivered in exchange for Bitcoin, where I don't have to order or prepare it myself. Kind of like ordering a breakfast platter at a hotel, they just bring you something to eat and you're happy. Some people said, hey, that's a lot of Bitcoin. You could find a better deal. That's $41 worth of Bitcoin. And I'm sure this guy now is kicking himself, probably a little pissed off. But to be honest, if he had 10,000 Bitcoin, I'm sure the guy had a lot more as well. Basically, that 10,000 Bitcoin, which was $41 at the time, that is now worth $670 million in current Bitcoin currency money value. And while this guy is probably looking back and a bit pissed off, at the same time, this marks a huge historic day for Bitcoin. The first commercial transaction for Bitcoin being used as money. Now, my opinion, using Bitcoin for money is a bit ridiculous. I think the real use case for Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation, a store of value. While it is volatile, I do believe it's a store of value. And if your time horizon is more than a year, 2 years, it is definitely a store of value if you look long term. There is not a single 4-year period on Bitcoin where it has gone down from 4 years ago. So if you're at least somewhat patient, you're eventually always going to be up on your Bitcoin if Bitcoin continues to repeat its history, if Bitcoin continues to follow its 4-year cycle. And while I think it's great that people think one day Bitcoin could be just this massive one world currency, I find it extremely unlikely. I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't think it has to happen for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is very finite in supply. There's no way that you can use 21 million Bitcoin universally and use it as transactions. Of course, you can buy gift cards and other things with Bitcoin and use those gift cards to buy things from stores. But to me, Bitcoin does not have to be a world currency. Bitcoin does not have to be a country currency. To me, Bitcoin's best use case is a store of value. There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. The vast majority has already been mined. It's really interesting when you see a story like this. It makes you look back in time and see where Bitcoin was value-wise. 10,000 Bitcoin was worth $41 less than 15 years ago. In 15 years from now, what's 1 Bitcoin going to be worth? If you double Bitcoin's current lifetime, if you go 15 years from now, where is Bitcoin going to be worth? Is 1 Bitcoin going to be worth 670 million? I doubt it. But I can guarantee that 10,000 Bitcoin will be worth much more than 670 million in 15 years from now, even probably a year from now, to be honest. I do think within 15 years, Bitcoin can demand a $1 million Bitcoin price. I think analysts, Kathy Wood, everybody else saying that Bitcoin's going to get to $1 million by the next cycle, I think that's a bit unlikely. Can it do it? Maybe. My assumption would be we're going to probably see $1 million Bitcoin by the year 2033. So not the peak of the next Bitcoin 4-year cycle, but the peak of the one following that. People saying Bitcoin's going to be $1 million by 2030. The thing to also think about is 2030 should be a bear market year, if you at least follow the Bitcoin cycles. So my assumption is if we don't see $1 million Bitcoin by the year 2029, we are not going to see $1 million Bitcoin by 2030. But let me know what you guys think about that. Where do you think Bitcoin will be in 15 years from now? And when do you think we'll see a $1 million Bitcoin? And also, what do you see for Bitcoin's use cases? Do you see it more as a currency? Do you see it more as digital gold, like a store of value? Or do you see it in some other way? Thanks as always for watching, guys. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Hopefully we have a good day in the market tomorrow. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know, where do you think Bitcoin's going by the end of May? Are we going to see a $65,000 Bitcoin, or are we going to see a $70,000 Bitcoin? Or are we going to see one first and then the other? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.